Good evening, and how are you? And I told you I was going to be back to do a June financial forecast. I am using Doreen Virtue, and yes, I know Doreen doesn't, endorse these, blah, 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 but her Angels of Abundance. And so that is the deck that I am using tonight. It's the only one I can find anywhere, that discusses, let me put this on over here, that even talks about money, really. I've looked for other cards and have had difficulties finding them. And so I just use these. I mean, they're conversation starters. It helps the energy to flow. So this is the Angels of Abundance by Doreen Virtue is the deck that I'm using, and let's get our little smudge out. So while I'm lighting this, let me remind you to do me a really big favor and love this video. Comment where you're watching from, or say a hello, or whatever you want to. And don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share. And let's go ahead and clear these so that we get a nice reading from them. And then for you. And then for me. My hands to be. And so we are using this deck. So yeah. June's coming up. And if you're reading headlines, when you log into your computer or your Google and you get the little news, and, I guess Yellen, our Secretary of Finance or whatever, Yellen has extended it out like 5 days or whatever, but financially speaking, our nation needs to get it together and maybe keep our monies at home. And so what we're going to look at in here is how is our world, our little world, being affected, and what do we need to look out for, or what kind of habits do we need to develop. And okay, there we go. Woo! Okay, that's supposed to be my first one. Okay, we got a big stack there. This is that financial forecast. And okay, let's see if we get anything else. And that's a negative. Alright, so we've got a nice little stack of cards here. And let's begin. Okay, so we are using the Angels of Abundance, Doreen Virtue's deck. We're looking at June. We know that nationwide, and global-wide, we've got a lot of financial issues going on, and a lot of upside down, and confusion, chaos, and etc. And so we're not really focusing on that. We're focusing more in our inner world, not our inner world, but in where we are functioning. And that's what we're looking at this evening. So let's look at the first card. And it is reading to us about focusing on our priorities. So if a vacation in 2026 really probably isn't your priority. So this is looking at, and I'm going to say the energy that I'm getting here is being in the here and now. Financially speaking, focusing on what you have or what you have working in the here and now, and what are those priorities. And my mother would always say, you got to start with where you live and where you work, and how do you get to your work. And that would be my mother, and my mom was born during the Depression, so they focused a lot on how you make your living. But what is your priority? Because that's what you're going to focus on. And if your priority is on your home, how are you making your home prosperous? Our obstacle here is, and I'm going to say this is really interesting, is about severing our vows of poverty. And so when I'm looking at this as the obstacle, it is, why are we in a mode of poverty or thinking like poverty? So we're sitting here and we're putting into a fear, because we're thinking, oh, what if I have no electricity? Or, oh, what if the water gets cut off? Or, oh, what if I don't have a house? Or I lose my job? Or, the economy totally bails out and all of my money goes down to zero. We're looking at everything in a negative vibration, and that's what we're going to be attracting. So when we see this card upside down in this obstacle position, it's a little softer of a reminder, or I'm going to say an encouragement to break away or to sever that vow of poverty. It's about changing your mind frame. And yes, that's your mind frame. What are you thinking about consciously when you're thinking about money or prosperity or wealth, or even what you materially have in hand? So this is a stop focusing on what you don't have or what you potentially don't have, and focus on what you do have working in your favor, or in your favor or on your behalf through there. So really, really strong energy on that, and it's very important to think about that. So the help, and I'm laughing, is words of abundance. And, what was the message just a moment ago was about changing your mind frame and starting to use the words of prosperity and abundance. And what do you have working? I am so grateful for the hot water that I have to take my shower every day. I am grateful for the air conditioning that I have, and my air conditioning just kicked on, that keeps my house cool in the summer, and the heater that kept it warm all winter long. So those are words of abundance, and this is really important to push those words of abundance and bring forth, and stop focusing on the poverty thought process. Stop focusing on what you potentially don't have when you have many things in hand. So interesting card through there when you think about that. It's like it came right after that. This is kind of interesting because it's no more complaining, but it's upside down. And what I'm getting is on the... Okay. Alright, so no more complaining, upside down. We can laugh and we can joke about anything that's going on in our world, socially or politically. We can, skim the headlines, blow it off, whatever, what this is saying in here is that you can't just complain about it. That anything that you're putting a focus or an attention to, it's really, especially if it's a negative vibration, it's super important to have a solution or resolution to the problem that's going on. And it's like you can't complain unless you have a plan to make it better. That's kind of like the nice way to say it through there. But I think that's a very interesting perspective, that it's kind of like, unless you have you have a solution or a resolution to it, you really don't have room to complain about things that are happening. Because it was like, how many times do we probably put it in our own path? Okay, it is not going to be an easy task. It is not going to be an easy task to get through this period. There is, and I keep getting like fear mongering. It's like the feeling I get. So I'm like, okay, all right, throat chakra, open up. The feeling that I'm getting through there is like people painting really desolate, horrible pictures. And yet those pictures are not as bad as what you think. And I was a teenager and I was melodramatic. I had teenagers and they were melodramatic. And what I get is like a melodramatic teenager talking about like a pimple on the tip of their nose or on their forehead or whatever, and it's, coming up on prom. And they're being so melodramatic about this pimple and making it seem like it's this big when it's like, you can barely see it, and you're like, girl, just put some ding dang bentonite clay on it. It'll just dry it up and it'll be gone tomorrow. They don't see that there's an easy solution. It's just this big melodramatic big zit that's on their face. And that's what this card is talking about. It's like those obstacles are there, yeah, and it's not going to be easy, but they're really not as big and bad and horrible looking as you think. It's been, as my husband would say, it's been churched up so that people look at it in a much different way. Do the work card is upside down, and so what I'm going to say is there's just there's like this heavy funk that holds over that, but this heavy funk isn't suffocating. It's almost like that thin layer of sweat or perspiration on a humid day that you kind of feel that yuck, but you're not totally suffocating. It's a little uncomfortable, and that's what this card is talking about, is that things are a little uncomfortable. Alright, so you might not be able to do ribeye steaks every Saturday in the month of June, but it doesn't mean you're eating ramen noodles every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday during the month of June, okay? It means that, yeah, you kind of got to tighten up things a little bit. And I'm getting it's like the market itself, and this is this bountiful nature here. The market itself, the stock market is what I'm talking about. The market itself is very labile, and some things, some stocks will shoot up, and other stocks will crash down. And they'll focus more on what crashes as opposed to what elevates. Okay. James Woods, I think he's a really interesting man, and I follow him on Twitter. And one of the things that he said back during the time of COVID was that he learned during 9/11 just to hold on to your stock. So if you were investing in Wall Street or whatever, that 9/11 occurred and a lot of people wanted to go and sell their stock off, etc. And James Woods said, there's always a rebound that occurs after a tragedy or after, that going on. And I'm sitting here thinking, I was watching a show about American cars being made, and it was like the early days of Ford and Chevrolet and etc. And these guys got hit by the stock market, and then they turned around and boom, they were making, millions, etc. of dollars during that time, which would be billions now. And so when you think about it, it's like, even though things look really rough in aspect, it's not a time for that true panic. It's just about focusing on your priorities, because there's not going to be a lot of what I'm going to call extra to play with. There's not going to be a lot of extra to play with coming through. So the market is going to take a little bit more of a hit than what we anticipate. And some people are going to have a little bit of difficulties here, and I'm seeing this attracting, not chasing, and it's upside down. They're going to be stuck in the poverty mode. It is very important not to get caught in the poverty loop or the poverty thinking. Chance favors a prepared mind. So, and you're like, well, this is only like, we're 5 days away from June 1st. And I'm like, I know. And there's sometimes not a lot that you can do in 5 days, but chance favors a prepared mind. Start thinking about how you can, and I'm going to say I don't want to say cut corners, because I don't want you to cut corners, but think about how you can multitask many of your things that you do to reduce unnecessary loss. Okay, so if it's bringing your own lunch 3 days a week to work, bring lunch 3 days a week. If you have a big garden and maybe all you do on several meals a week is what comes from your garden. Think of things like that. It's how many things can you dry outside as opposed to using your dryer. Learning how to manage your money and manage your time and being thoughtful in that process. It's probably not a good month for spending unnecessarily. And I was sitting there thinking, so dang it, that means I probably shouldn't be going to the casino or play only what my free money is. Yeah, through there. But just take that time in the month of June. The big warning is just not warning. The big advice is to pay attention to what your priorities are. And those are number one. Things that are the wanna-dos or, oh, that would be so cool to do or cool to have, cool to buy. If you really don't need it at this given time, don't invest that money into it. Invest that money back in self or putting it back into the coffee can or wherever it is. But being more mindful about how you spend your money and how you spend your time. And placing that into a priority that will help you stay financially afloat or financially focused in the month of June. So I hope you enjoyed this reading. Do me a big favor, love this video, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell if you're on YouTube. And I hope to see you soon. Peace, love, and harmony. Bye.